Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. So today we are at day 8 of our complete DevOps course, and just to let people know who are coming to our channel for the very first time. So this is a 45 days of DevOps course, and we are going to understand DevOps from zero to hero. So if you haven't watched our previous videos, there is a playlist called DevOps Zero to Hero. Please go and watch our previous videos. Perfect. So now today we are going to look at a GitHub API integration module. Okay, so let me stress on the word called module using shell scripting. Okay, so everybody has been asking me about shell scripting projects or DevOps projects because they might have learned shell scripting previously, or some of our viewers or subscribers also have learned shell scripting from our previous videos. So now they are looking at projects. So that's why yesterday I did a live project, and today also I'm going to talk about a project that I have implemented in one of my previous organizations. Perfect. So this project is something that you can also implement in your current organization, or you can also add it to your resumes, because trust me, this project is something that you can modify and implement it with other tools like JIRA or any other Bugzilla or any tools that you're using. And moreover, this is a module. So what do I mean by a module? So in scripting or in programming, module is nothing but a piece of code or a group of files or even a single file that can be reused. Okay, so let's say you are writing 10 lines of code, and this 10 lines of code can be used by other teams or completely different programs. So that kind of things is called as a module. So what I'm going to do is I am going to write a file. Okay, so this is a shell scripting file, and this shell scripting file can be reused by other teams as well, because you know it's a generic thing. So that's why I call it as a module. Now, before I jump onto sharing my screen and showing you what is this script, how does this work, let me theoretically explain you so that you understand the gist of it, right? So that whenever you are even explaining it to an interviewer, just instead of explaining the script, you can first tell them that this was the problem, this is the problem that I've solved, and this is my solution, right? So that's why let me take a new screen and explain you what is the problem. So every organization these days use a version control system. So it can be GitHub, it can be GitLab, it can be anything else. But because I'm very familiar with GitHub, so that's the reason why I took GitHub as an example here. But you can modify it with anything that you would like to. So let's say this is GitHub and my organization is using GitHub. So what usually happens is whenever somebody is using GitHub, they would create repos to store the code, right? They would create let's say users for people to view the code, right? And then they can create some groups, collaborators, and moreover people can also create few other things like issues on this repository. Like somebody says that your code is wrong, or somebody feels that your code is not working, so they would create some issues. And anybody willing to contribute to your code, they will also create some pull requests, and many more things that somebody can do on a GitHub. So I'm not going to details of it, but so this is your GitHub in your organization. And because you are a DevOps engineer, what usually happens is instead of managing a single team, you would manage multiple teams, right? So you have hundreds of teams or tens of teams depending upon the DevOps engineer roles that you are managing, but usually you deal with 2 to 3 teams. Okay, so whenever you are dealing with 2 to 3 teams, let's say instead of one team, here you have 5 different teams that you are managing on your GitHub. So a person, whether let's say your manager is coming to you, and your manager says that Abhishek, give me list of repositories created by team X. What you can usually do is you can go to your GitHub, you can go to the UI, and you can search for the team, and you can say that okay, these are the repositories that are created. Or your manager comes to you and asks you, Abhishek, tell me how many active users are available on our GitHub. So again you can go to the UI and say, but what about you want to give this information as part of a script? That is, anybody who is willing to get this information, just share them a script and tell them that okay, execute the script and provide some parameters calling what is the uh, password, what is your password, and followed by what is the information that you require. So run our script, provide your password to the GitHub, and just ask for the information, and you will get the output. Isn't it cool? So anybody who is asking you this information, just share our script and tell them that just give two things. One is the password, and the second thing is the information that you want. So how are we going to achieve this? So we are going to talk to the GitHub API. What is API? Somebody asked me in the comment section, what is API? So let me also answer this question for them. API is nothing but an application interface. So whenever you want to talk to any tool, let's say GitHub, let's say AWS, let's say Azure, let's say Jenkins or anything. So the developers at these applications, they usually expose API or their application interface. So somebody who wants to get any information from their application, they can simply make a call with the API. Right? Instead of talking to that application using CLI or the UI, they can make a API call. It can be a REST API call or a SOAP API call or any API call. So these are different frameworks, nothing but okay. REST is representational state transfer. It's just a it uses the HTTP protocols or HTTP framework. But okay, let's not go into the details of it and confuse people. Okay, so I'll keep it very simple and say that so somebody who wants to get information with GitHub, they can simply make a API call. It's a REST API call or SOAP API call or any other API call, and they can retrieve the required information. So this happens through a API. So what we are going to achieve today, we are going to write a script that basically talks to the GitHub API and asks user only two things. One is the password, and the second thing is the information. That is, let's say that they want to retrieve repos. Let's say they want to retrieve the active users. Let's say they want to retrieve how many number of issues are available. Okay, so by running this script, you will get the information. Now, this is not it. Our script has one more fundamental advantage, that is it can be used as a module. By what do I mean by a module? So somebody who would like to integrate this script to theirs. So let's say I'll tell you a real life scenario what has happened. So I wrote this module and there is another team called team X. Okay, so what this team X was doing is they were doing a high level automation, or they were doing a high level integration between tools like JIRA. This is a real-time scenario that I'm explaining you. GitHub and Bugzilla, also a reporting dashboard. So this was a requirement in our previous project. So while they were doing this, what they have done is they wrote the Jira integration module, they wrote the Bugzilla, they wrote the reporting, but GitHub, they have just taken from mine. Okay, because I have already wrote the script and I put that in our organizational's GitHub. So that's why they just reused my existing code. So this is how you can fundamentally write shell script and create modules. So let's quickly jump onto the terminal and let me show you on in live what did I do and how did I achieve these things, right? Because theoretically you understood all of these things. So now let me go onto a terminal and show you the script. So you can also use this script. I'll put it in the GitHub and also share the link in the description section. So anybody can directly access this script and they can start working with it. There is no payment charge or anything. It's open. Anybody can use this script. I don't want to put any conditions to sharing this script. Perfect. So this is my terminal. Okay, and what I'll first do is I'll firstly execute the script and show it to you. Okay, before even jumping onto the code, let me integrate and show it to you. So there is a script here. Sorry, I have to connect to my Ubuntu machine. So this is my Ubuntu machine, and let me change the user to root. How do I change the user to root? Just say sudo su minus your user is changed to root. Now there is a script here. Let me execute this script. Like I told you, I just passed two basic things here. One is the password. So let me export the password here. Okay, I'm just stopping the screen share once because I want to export the password. Password and these related things are very sensitive, so never share with anyone. So you can simply export it and save it to your terminal or save it to anything. And I have just done it. So now I can go back and share my screen one more time. Perfect. So you are able to see my screen one more time. Now, what I'm doing here is I will, okay, so this is my terminal. Okay, export the password. Sorry, I have exported the password. Now execute the script that I just showed you guys using /github followed by the password. I just saved it onto my terminal. So I'll just say $password. So what $password will do, it will provide my password to the script. And then the next thing that I want to retrieve is nothing but the uh, /orgs. What are the orgs available in one of my GitHub organizations? I'll show you how to get this information as well, followed by repos. So let's see what does it print. So it will give me all the repositories that I've created in my organization. Okay, so you can try the same thing in your office organization as well. So what did I do? Let me show you again. So this is the script that I've executed. This is the password that I've provided, and this is the API that I have asked GitHub to give the information back. So what I am asking GitHub to just give me the list of repositories. So for that, I have provided the password and I have provided the script details. Now, how do I get this information, right? So people might be wondering, okay, how do you know that by submitting this information to GitHub, you will get the list of repositories? Don't worry, there is no rocket science. Every application exposes their their APIs through a documentation. Whether you want to look into JIRA documentation, whether you want to look into GitHub documentation, any documentation, they have their API references. So here, what did I do is I just came to the GitHub docs. I went to REST API and I just search for repos. Okay, if you see here, REST API followed by repositories. So it said that this is a simple call that you can make to our GitHub and you can retrieve the information. Okay, so /orgs followed by my organization name followed by repository. So that's the same information that I have given to GitHub. /orgs DevOps by examples is the organization name. In your case, it can be any organization that you are using in your company, followed by repos, because I want just the repos. So let's say I don't want repos and I just want users. Okay, so go to the user documentation, click on users. Okay, so here you will see an example. What is the example? Just type /user. That's what the example says. So let me try and see if it works. Just I said /user. See, I got the information of the user. So it says there is only one user called I am Veeramalla and everything about the user. So this is my bio and my current location, my YouTube channel details, my name, where I am working, everything that I have stored in GitHub, I can retrieve. So that way, if somebody is coming to you and asking you, Abhishek, can you just provide the information of all the users in our organization? You can simply say them that, okay, so I'm right now busy. You can use this script, provide your password and just provide the details what you want. So in his case, he can just say /user. This way, you can slightly modify the script and you can use it with JIRA. You can use it with any other thing, right? I hope you got the example. Now let me show you the script. And don't worry, if you think the script is too big to understand in this particular session, like I mentioned you, I'll put the entire script in the GitHub repository and you can watch the video again, or you can just go through the script in the GitHub repository. But let me explain you in a step-by-step way. Firstly, this is a bash script, so that's why I started with shebang /bin/bash. Every time you have to do that, and followed by you provide the author details. Like I mentioned in previous videos, you can change this, but always make sure that you're using the same language. Like let's say you're using dash, so write the script in dash. Provide the author details, the version of the script, and provide some basic information of what this script is. So this particular thing is called as metadata. So it is always a good practice to write metadata, because anybody who is looking at your script, they will understand the script for the very first time. They don't have to come to you and bother you, right? Okay, so author is Abhishek, version is v1. Now this script will help users to communicate and retrieve information from GitHub. So that is the same thing that we're doing, right? Usage, please provide your GitHub token and REST API to script as input. No, the same thing that I have explained here as well. So what happens is, let's say somebody don't know how to use the script and they just executed the script. So the script will throw you an error saying that this is the usage. So how did I do this? So in your script, always provide the usage details. How do you do that? So write in your very first lines of the code, or you can also write a function called usage function and execute the usage function and see if the user is passing the required arguments or not. So here what I'm checking is there should be minimum 2 arguments that user is passing. If the user is not passing 2 arguments, then throw an error saying that usage, provide your GitHub access token and provide the rest expression. Perfect. And what I have done is, once this thing is passed, let's say the user has passed the GitHub token and user has passed the REST expression, what you need to do is you need to copy these two things into variables, right? Because I'm going to use this two things in my expressions or in the REST API calls that I am going to make with GitHub. So that's why GitHub token is $1, GitHub REST API is $2. So that is what we are taking as inputs, right? So for example, we took slash users. So slash user is an input that we have taken to REST API, or we took slash orgs, your organization name, followed by repos. So this is the API request that you are making to the script, followed by the password. Then this is something that you have to provide for GitHub. It depends on the application that you are going to use. So this is called as a header, and in header you provide whether it's of type application JSON or whether it's of type application sort GitHub. So you get this information from the GitHub API documentation. So for example, here this is the GitHub API documentation, right? So here if you look at the header that the example is passing, you will understand that it is passing application slash vnd/github plus JSON, the same thing that I have used here as well. So always make sure you get this information from the REST API documentation of tool that you are using. Then I took the base name that is for just the script to, it's just like a bootstrapping my script. And then I'm just storing the information in a temporary file. So sometimes GitHub throws you a lot of information. Let's say that you are getting information of 10,000 users in your organization. It is practically impossible to read everything from the terminal. So that's why always store such information into a temporary file, and end of the script you can just print the temporary file, or you can store the temporary file in any location and tell the persons that okay, once you execute the file, look into this location. This is the location where the temporary file is saved with all the information. Finally, you are going to make the REST API call. So what I'm going to make in the REST API call, curl. Curl is a shell command that is most widely used for making such API calls. So in curl, I'm passing my password, and then I'm passing the header, which we just stored here. And then, I'm passing, sorry, here I'm passing the token again. Okay. So GitHub token is the, if you see here, GitHub token is something that we are passing as a password, followed by the information that I'm storing in a temp file. Now, ignore about these things. These are not very important. You can also ignore this, like if you don't want pagination or things, because you are just writing this script for the very first time, you can ignore pagination. Finally, this is the API call that I'm going to make, api.github.com, followed by the REST API that you are going to provide as example, followed by the password. Okay, now this is all about the pagination and the API related stuff. If you don't want, you can ignore, and you can end your script using cat temporary file. Now, our focus of interest is to understand this specific command. So let me take a minute and explain you the command. What I'm doing here is I stored all the information that I'm receiving from the user's input into GitHub API REST and GitHub API header accept, as well as the password, right? So I have already taken the password here in the previous command. So in the current command that I'm executing, what I'm doing is I am executing the API call by making use of the headers and making use of the password. That's it. Okay, so how do I get this information? Let's say you are very new to scripting and you don't know how to create this API call. Don't worry. Again, go back to your GitHub API documentation and you have it here right in place. Okay, so this is the same thing that I've used. Even if you go to JIRA, if you go to Bitbucket, Gitbash, or anything. So for the very first people, let's say you are very new to scripting, you can start with using these things, and in future, you can prepare your own versions of it. Let's say you want to enhance the curl command, you want to print the verbosity of your curl command, you want to establish an insecure connection. Those things will come in your next stages or your future stages. But first of all, start with the commands that these people are providing. Like let's say you're writing in JavaScript, for that also there is a version available, but our focus is curl, so you can copy the commands from here. But like I told you, I'll put this script in the GitHub, so you can make use of the same commands, or you can copy the shell script, no worries, and you can reuse it in your organization. There is no problem at all. So what we have done is again curl followed by the API that we are going to talk to the GitHub. It can be slash users, it can be slash repos or anything, followed by the header that we are passing and the password. Finally, I'm doing some grep. This is again related to the pagination. You can ignore these things. You know, and once we execute, what are we going to receive? We are going to get the password that I'm going to print in the temporary file. So like I mentioned you, I'll put the entire script, I'll just copy the same thing into GitHub, and I'll share the GitHub location in the description, YouTube channel description. So if you like the script, just give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions related to this, just post in the comment section. And finally, don't forget to share these videos with your friends. Like, we are doing this with a lot of effort. So any person who is learning DevOps or willing to learn DevOps, if they get benefited out of these videos, I'll be more than happy. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next videos. Take care, everyone.